the HOA that was spraying.
Oh,
So
okay. You're just wondering on the health and safety for environmental with the state.
Correct.
Okay.
Plus the fact is because they are required to follow special procedures. And in those procedures, you have to spray with PPP, personal protection products, or PPP, whichever.
Personal protective equipment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they weren't using any of those. Now, if you're not even using those when you're spraying, then the majority of the people are not, they didn't have the labeling on the container. They're not following manufactured procedures. So it becomes, that's when you have that rusty barrel leaking into your water supply, or that's when you have that rusty barrel that, you know, now you had a dog that came across it. That's when it becomes unsafe. And now those are the same people that are spraying your front yard.
Are you okay if I hand her off a note with the county health department's number?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for your comments, and we'll get you a number that works, okay?
Thank you. Do you want me to just hold for it, or?
Yeah, stand, if you want to have a seat, I'll bring it to you in just a sec.
All right. Is anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? All right. If nobody in the room, anybody online? Okay, then we'll move on to item 3, report of elected officials, and we will start with our county council members. So any of you that would like to give a report? Suzanne?
I just want to thank the Public Works and CADE for a great tour of flood control last week. Several of us were able to go and see the sites, and especially in anticipation of spring runoff, it was really helpful to see your team's work and the resources that we have throughout our county to help protect people and deal with floods. So that was really great. I also attended the Behavioral Health Advisory Committee meeting last week, and we're going to have a preview of some of their work today, but it's just really important to be able to understand all the things that we're doing in the county to help people with mental and behavioral health. So thanks to them.
Great, thank you. Yes, Ross?
I just wanted to also report, many of us today had the chance to visit Mill Creek City. They are working on a phase 2 development to their city center, I guess, is what you'd call it, and contemplating miniature golf and other outdoor events, pavilions and shaded areas to complement what they offer. And so it was great. There were a lot of different governmental entities, from the congressional representatives down to the city leadership. So anyway, good things are happening in our cities.
Cool. All right. Anybody else from council? I'll give a couple of comments real quick, and I'll just echo what Suzanne said with our flood control tour. That was awesome. We got to see, we didn't even see all of it. It's a huge system throughout the county, but we did get a glimpse of it. And it's really interesting to see how that water does flow down and how it does end up in the Great Salt Lake. It's a true thing. And so we just have to be cognizant of our waters and protect them and do all we can to mitigate when there's a potential for flooding, which hopefully we won't this year. So, which is good. And then second, I did go with Arlen to attend a panel for Best Friends, which was really cool. It wasn't actually in Salt Lake County, but we just are talking about the effort to make our state no-kill. We're really proud to have our county animal services as no-kill shelter, and so we want to extend that to other shelters throughout the state and become a no-kill state at some point. So just discussing that with stakeholders. And then the third thing was a grand opening actually for Snellgrove Ice Cream in Sandy. This is, as you know, Richard Snellgrove served on the county council for years, and he just recently opened up an ice cream store right by my house. It's in walking distance, so I'll be going over there quite a bit. So I thought that was kind of cool for him, and so he's always up to something, as you know, so good stuff. If there's no other reports from elected officials or county council, then I'll turn over to the mayor.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think everyone's aware, because we're going to be moving forward a joint proclamation, but it is Older Americans Month. And of course, it's time to honor the men and women who have given so much to our community, who are aging. And I just want to give a really sincere shout out to our aging services team, Paul and his staff. They do amazing things. I feel like I have been lucky enough to be to several great engagements with aging services over the past month. I went to Meals on Wheels delivery directly with the Lieutenant Governor, she and I, door to door, which is great. And then the governor was out on a route as well. And Councilmember Winder Newton attended our kickoff that day and appreciated that the state was interested in, I think, sharing with our community the importance of Meals on Wheels and also sending a message to our federal government how important that program is. And when you actually go to a door and bring a meal in, you see the appreciation. I mean, we do it once. You all have been out, I know as well. We're not doing that every day. It's our volunteers and it's our staff, and for the governor and the state and for us to experience, that was awesome. And then also, I was at the Mill Creek Community Center just this past week with AARP. They have designated us as an age-friendly community. We are the first in the state, and excited and appreciative of that. And it's because we do the right things, right? We're looking at the growth, the demand, the need, and a variety of services from the operations that we have within our aging services centers, where people can come in and get a meal or play bingo, connect with people, to the meals delivered directly to their doors, to just planning health and fitness and everything else that we do. So I'm incredibly appreciative and proud of that particular arm of our county government. And then shifting gears, I joined a few of you. Thank you for joining those of you who were able to come out to the Lodestone Regional Park mountain bike skills course opening. Councilwoman Stringham, I see her online. I don't know if she ever got her bike ride, but we were out there. Councilwoman Harrison was there, Pinckney, I don't know if anyone else, but we had a fun time looking at the new course. And this was one of those public-private partnerships that is so critical to us being able to leverage our limited resources. A lot of volunteer support and a lot of work going in with various organizations contributing, both in terms of people hours and also just, dollars to make it happen. So that was a win-win. And then I was able last week to join a couple of events related to the Crossroads of the World International Trade Summit. And it's not often that you have former Senator and Ambassador Jeff Flake, a major visionary world religious leader at your table, along with Antony Blinken, former Secretary of State. Like, I felt I was even shy, believe it or not. It was great conversation. And also, the Senate President was also at our table. So we had a great dinner at the Governor's Mansion. And I love having the chance to share the incredible work that we do at Salt Lake County with this audience, and took a minute to do that. And then the summit itself had amazing bipartisan representatives of our world dynamic. It was really quite a powerful conference with both I think Obama era to Clinton era to Trump era now, and others Bush era even, of people who have made their mark in our world. And I think what was striking to me is how much they appreciated our state, and the compliments were flying our direction as we thank them for taking the time to join us in the community. That was a great event. And our World Trade Center partner put that on. And I think we always, every budget year, are looking at good alliances. And I really appreciated, sometimes we, with our more narrow mission, are not always in the main lane of an international agreement or even a trade. We're not always there leaning into the trade missions. That's more of a state role. But I think our voice in those forums matters, and I think our commitment to engaging and being a part of the support network for World Trade Center and international affairs is really, really key. And you'll see that it matters now, even to a local government. And I know, Carlos, with your background, you probably agree, given you were not born in this nation. You're here now as a citizen and serving in government, and you understand how important America is in the world dynamic and economy, right? So with that, switching gear, thank you, Representative Romero. You've mentioned the Mill Creek opening today. That was awesome. They're phase 2. Go check that out. And then I went straight from there to a ribbon cutting for the tallest building in the state, which is Astra Tower. It's like an urban center. It's not even an apartment complex. It's got its own urban ecosystem. So go check that out downtown. I went with Mayor Mendenhall a few months ago in the middle of a blizzard to one of the higher floors. It has a monitor for air quality that lights up. So we have the Walker Tower downtown, which has been weather for all these years. And now there's a colored system for Astra Tower to show whether or not our air is worth breathing. And then I'm proud to announce we've selected 9 new interns for our program. Thank you, Michelle, for your work on that. We're excited to welcome this new group. It's really one of the best things we've done here, in my opinion, at Salt Lake County. It's in its 5th year. Bank of America has supported the first 4 years. We're hoping that they'll come in with some funding this year. But having these talented young people embedded in our operations is good for us and it's good for them. And hopefully many of them will stay with us or come back to us when jobs open up here. And then lastly, annually, our county library kicks off summer reading. That's happening May 30th. Families, kids signing up. We, in the past, have had 50,000 residents sign up for that program. And of course, as a mom, I appreciate having kids read during the summer. I know you do as well. So thanks to our library for that program. And that concludes my report today. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much for that
Oh,
report.
it doesn't?
Oh,
I'm sorry, since I'm not going to get the mic again.
No problem.
My apologies. I want to thank Arlen. I will be seeing even more of him, but his service to this council is remarkable. And I met him long before either of us were working at the county. But when he did come over and work with Joe Hatch as aide to the chair, I got to know him better. As you all know, Arlen has a very deep understanding of our operations here and a commitment to it. And I know that this was a good time for him, maybe not the perfect time to make the change over to the administration. Maybe the perfect time might have been the last day of his term expiring. But I feel like that this change will allow him to hopefully serve for quite some time in this new role, regardless who's in this office in future years. Because I think he is somebody who, as you know, having worked with him, has such a deep commitment to the county, its mission, and an understanding of what we do. So I welcome him at midnight. I'm probably going to call him, maybe not. But at midnight, I believe, is the magical hour where, like, hey, can I bug you? But I do that even now. So with that, just thanks for the work you've done as an elected official, and I look forward to working with you in this new capacity. And that's it, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you so much. Any reports from other elected county officials? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, which is our consent.
My last consent.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
I think I probably hold the record for the number of motions made on the county council just because of consent for all these years. I think I overtook Jim Bradley at some point. So, Madam Chair, I'll motion approval of the consent items short this week, 4.1 through 6.1. Oh, 6.2, excuse me,
6.2,
through
yeah.
6.2.
Okay, wonderful.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve our consent. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And we'll move right into item 8, which is our work session, starting with 8.1, which is our proposed hire report, incentive plans, 3,000 and under, and weekly reclassification report by Hua Nguyen, our county council budget and policy analyst.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This week, we have 30 positions listed. We have one incentive plan under 3,000 in the DA's office. So the DA's office provided 1,500 for the health department payroll coordinator to mentor their new payroll coordinator. We also have 2 vacant reclassifications. HR reclassify a performance data analyst to become a process improvement analyst in the same grade. the DA's office reclassify a senior attorney to become a prosecuting attorney 3. Does the council has any question on those?
Okay, any questions for Hua? Okay, nope.
I will move on to 8.2. So this week we have 2 incentive plans over 3,000 for council's review and approval. The health department provides an incentive plan for the marketing and communication engagement manager to take on a temporary assignment due to the vacancy in the strategic partnership and special projects position. This plan is for up to 3,000, but because this position also had a similar plan earlier this year, so together he will receive up to $6,000 this year, and that's why it go in separately for council's review. The second incentive plan applies to non-supervisory positions in flood control operations who respond to spring runoff and summer rain event after hour call-outs to deliver flood control services. Although this plan is less than 3,000, some of the employees on this plan were also part of the snow removal incentive plan earlier this year. So if they receive the maximum amount under this new plan, they would be received more than 3,000 in 2025.
Okay, any questions for Hua on this item? Okay. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, approve item 8.2, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you. 8.3. So Parks and Rec has discovered mold in a childcare classroom at the Magna Rec Center. So the program has been relocated to other rooms in the building. And now in this budget adjustment, they request to transfer 50,000 in under expand budget from the completed Magna Pool project to the mold removal project.
Okay, any questions for Hua on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on this one.
Move to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
8.4, this is a budget adjustment, budget neutral and technical only. The sheriff's office requests to transfer 149,000 from operations to debt services to properly account for the Axon's evidence program to comply with SPIDA requirements.
Okay, any questions on this item for Hua? Okay, seeing none, entertain a motion on this one.
I'll move for approval of 8.3.
I'll second.
Wait, this is 8.4.
I mean,
Sorry.
8.4,
Thank
sorry.
you. I mean,
8.4.
3 is done.
My
8.4.
second stands.
Okay, motion and a second to approve 8.4. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 8.5, consideration of council advice and consent to the mayor's appointment of Arlen Bradshaw as Associate Deputy Mayor for Mayor's Finance and Administration.
Do we get to interview him?
Well, I've already given my comments. I'll turn it over to Darren for this item.
First of all, thanks for putting this on the agenda. I didn't realize. It's perfect. I was actually thinking that I needed to do it, and then I've read the agenda. So, Arlen, as you know, council, my portfolio is unique in the county in that it does budgets and finance and administrative type services for all elected officials and also considers the council our customer as well, right? And so if you think about it from that perspective, Arlen's absolutely ideal for this role. And I'm very excited. I think he's going to definitely jump right in and help out with a lot of major projects that we've got going. As you know, he's been on the executive committee of Visit Salt Lake for years. We're on the precipice of one of the largest construction projects we've ever done in the county, that being the Salt Palace and all the interactions that that's going to entail. We talked this morning a little bit about a project that we can start also working on, Councilwoman Winder Newton. And it's just these projects that happen to touch all aspects of the county that are going to be exciting and fun, and I can't wait to have Arlen part of my team. So very excited and appreciate your support.
All right, thanks for those comments. Comments or feedback from
I
council?
think you should have him come sit in this chair.
Hot seat?
Well, is he still a council member
can
after
only
this?
stay here
That's
for
what
so
we
long.
need to know.
Ralph, can I vote on this?
I recognize that might be your easiest vote ever, but no.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
So does this mean you're not on the council if we vote right now?
No, according to Mitch, I mean, I have to formally resign, which I have not done, but Mitch has the letter ready to go. He suggested I not sign it, though, until I had confirmation from the council. Should you not confirm me?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw
And this would be the
draft.
epitome of a restricted conflict of interest where he has a direct interest in it.
All right, Councilmember Harrison?
Well, I think selfishly, many of us would like to vote no, but I will absolutely support you in this role. I'm so excited for you and for our county and our residents that will be able to continue to benefit from your expertise. But on a personal note, when I joined the council a couple years ago, you were so friendly and so kind and so willing to just help me get up to speed, and it meant a great deal. And so I'm grateful that we'll be able to have a continued friendship, and really appreciate your commitment and care for the people that live here and the services that we provide to them. And I'm just really honored to serve with you.
I also want to comment. When I first met Arlen, I was thinking about joining a city council because his policy advisor at the time, who lived in South Salt Lake, told me that the seat was open. Sat down with you and Neil, and that's when I learned about the municipal genius that you were. So when this opportunity came up, I felt so honored to be able to learn from one of the wisest politicos that I know. Didn't think I was gonna get emotional, but I know you'll still be here, so it's not that emotional, but you will be missed. I mean, as a Democrat, besides you and Jenny are one of the top people that we look up to, and it's just been an honor to be able to serve with you.
Okay. Amy?
Who am I going to do a piano duet with this Christmas? That's what I want to know.
Someone who
I
can play better than me.
Pretty good.
I have loved serving with you. I always tell people Arlen's the smartest council member and knows policy the best out of any of us on the council. And, you've been our senior council member here for just a few months, but since Jim left, but we really appreciate you. You have done tremendous service. I'm going to miss you a lot. Sorry.
He's just across the hall.
I know.
Anybody else?
Actually, I'd like to say something.
Okay, and then Ross?
I think Amy's sad because she's now the senior council member. Just kidding. No, Arlen, you have been awesome to work with. I just have to say that I've been really grateful for the opportunity to have had to get to work with you and to be able to learn from you and to be able to work with you on various things over the last couple of years. You truly are somebody who is willing to cross the aisle and talk and communicate and work with people, and we've been really appreciative of that. So thank you for your service and the time that you've given to the citizens of Salt Lake County and for your friendship. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Ross?
Yep, just also a note of appreciation for everything you've done for the county, at the county, in the community, obviously representing diverse communities as well as important projects in preserving life with pets as a community project. You're probably moving on from that, or at least curtailing those events as well. And so we get the benefit of your experience at the county and your knowledge and your good-natured advising. And so anyway, appreciate the short time we had to serve together and look forward to working with you in a new endeavor.
Yes, Sheldon?
I'll just say one thing that I really appreciate. Arlen's always been straight up with me, and I've told that to his face. So we may not always agree, but he's always straight up with me. So that's something I really appreciated all the time that I've been here. So thank you.
All right. Thanks. I'll just give comment if there's nobody else. What a legacy. I mean, you've been here for a long time, and been really cool to work with you for last however long it's been, but I appreciate all that you do on behalf of Salt Lake County. And I'd say you're really level-headed and easygoing and easy to work with. So I appreciate that. And you've always been so kind to everybody, and you can't beat that. So I'm glad that you're still going to be here, and we can bug in a different way, I guess. But and we'll be reaching out. So, and I think you have great knowledge. I mean, gosh, you're stepping right into a role that you can do with your eyes closed, pretty much. So. It'll be great. So, and I just love that we've always had this best friends connection, which is awesome. So it doesn't come along very often. So I look forward to continuing that work here and there as we move forward too. So thanks for all you've done. And it kind of didn't hit me that today is actually your last council meeting. I don't think it hit any of us until, I don't know, we got here and we're like, oh my gosh. So anyway, we'll have I'm sure we'll have some things coming next week that you didn't expect. We didn't have ready this week, and that's you won't expect next week, but they're coming. So, but anyway, congratulations on your new role. And with that, we do need a vote on this. I mean,
Was it a
we can
motion
vote
to defer?
no.
Is that what I was hearing?
I mean, we don't have to. Just kidding.
Dee, if I could
So,
just quickly chime in.
You bet.
This is great for my ego, I guess. I hope you all still feel the same in a few months. And this did come really fast. I mean, about a month ago, we were kind of looking at the calendar, trying to figure out the best time to do this, so that I could start helping out Darren's team and get you guys a new colleague in a timely manner, before some of the June budget stuff is kind of seemed to make the most sense. And so that's why we landed on today. But I have to admit, I too am a little unprepared. I don't have like an eloquent farewell speech prepared or anything. But it is very emotional, actually. Like even making that consent motion for the last time is just weird to think after 14 plus years that I will be still in the same room, but not on this side of the table. I used to sit on that side for a few years before I joined the council, so it is kind of like returning home. But those of you that are on the council understand the different level of responsibility, and it is different sitting on this side. So I appreciate each and every one of you and all of my other council colleagues I've had over the last 14 years. I've heard from a couple of them this week. I talked to Joe Hatch for the first time in a few years a couple days ago, those of you that knew Joe. And he was blown away. He said, no way has it been that long since I was on the council. I told Joe that I wouldn't have had any of these 14 plus years without the trust he initially placed in me to bring me onto the council staff back in the day. So I'll also reserve maybe some additional comments for next week, but I will ask you for a yes vote on this. But apparently I have to abstain, so hopefully it's not too close.
Okay. All right. I'm not so sure we had a motion. Do I need a roll call? Just kidding.
I think
With-
Suzanne made a motion.
With a heavy heart, I'd like to motion approval of this item.
I'll second. Or sorry.
Motion and a second to approve item 8.5. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
I
opposed?
do want to qualify one thing. If I'm going to vote aye, you better get somebody good to replace you. And then I'm an aye.
No,
I do not have sole control over that. You all have also worked in party politics, so anything can happen. But I abstain officially from that vote.
All right. We'll move on. All right. 8.6, okay. Consideration of the Division of Behavioral Health Services fiscal year 26 area plan. Presenters Tim Whalen, Division Director of Salt Lake County Division of Behavioral Health Services. Jeannie Edens, Associate Director of Salt Lake County Division of Behavioral Health Services. And Melissa Stewart, Substance Use Prevention Program Manager, Salt Lake County Health Department. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Well, if I could, just for a second, I think this is your 14th time hearing this then at least, 15th. Just from the division level of behavioral health and being the director there during that period of time, I'd like to thank you for your commitment to behavioral health It's been a pleasure. You've always been a voice on the council that's supported what we do, and I just want to thank you personally for doing so. So here we are. We do this annually, and some of you have seen this a lot. Some it's brand new. And I really appreciate you. It's a humongous document. I want to compliment the division staff for putting this together. Jeannie Edens is the associate director. The prevention folks in the health department, my team, my fiscal manager, I brought Zach Case here, and I also brought my other associate director. So if you have any questions about anything that we can't answer at the table, we have some experts in the back to help us with that. So I'm going to turn the time over to Jeannie and let her get going on this presentation.
Okay. All right. Down. Got it. So thank you very much for having us here today. And we have had the pleasure of presenting to the mayor's office on the 6th. We had our area plan training on the 3rd. In case you're wondering, for those who haven't been involved in these presentations, why do we come just a couple days before it's due to you? So we just wanted to explain that briefly. And that is because they do wait until the session ends. Until they know where all the funding has landed and any special projects that the legislature wanted to send to counties. And so that takes them a while at the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health to determine all of that. And then they hold our training, which was April 3rd. And so we put together just a small document you might have seen. It's only 355 pages long that does describe the services that we'll be providing in the upcoming year. And so because it is so long and the training isn't until April, that's why it takes us this long. We did present to the mayor's office on the 6th. And then to your staff on the 8th, Thursday last week, and then hope to, through this presentation, to gain your approval and ask for your signature on our signature page, because it is due to the state on the 15th. So in our area plan, we have the new and notable summarized for you so that you don't have to read that animal. It's a huge document. And the first thing we wanted to highlight for you is the HMHI Receiving Center, which I think you're all really well aware of, opened in March of this year. We have, as you know, a full continuum of crisis services. We have a 24/7 crisis line. We have a warm line for folks that aren't in crisis but just need a warm listening ear to listen to visit with, run by peer support specialists. We have mobile crisis outreach teams, but then you have a receiving center, which is the next item in line in that continuum of care. And that would be a place where a person from the community can walk in, or law enforcement or emergency services can bring folks in the back door, as well as a diversion to jail or hospital stays, et cetera. And so, as you probably are well aware, it's now called the Crisis Care Center. And in that care center, you will find 30 chairs, not beds, but chairs, for a 23-hour stabilization. And so folks there are going to do anything they can to help folks resolve their crisis. If that is not able to be done in that 23 hours, there is a rapid stabilization unit, which is 24 beds, which are psychiatric hospital beds, and you can stay there up to 3 to 5 days. There's other supports there as well, medication-assisted treatment, lots of connections to community stakeholders like the Legal Defender's Office, Volunteers of America, other treatment programs, et cetera, enrolling in Medicaid, those types of things. So we're really excited to have this one online. You'll remember that we actually have had a receiving center since 2012, and it was amazing back then. We had counties from other states coming in to visit our receiving center. But what we realized over time was that it wasn't in the best location. We needed to grow the capacity, and it wasn't a non-refusal center. So we're really excited now to have that. We were excited in 2020 when Representative Elison ran the bill, which allowed us to apply for the funding through our office and start that process. And then through the collaboration of private donations and county land, et cetera, we're really glad to have it come online. And so the next ones you'll see there are
Hey,
expand.
Jeannie, I'd just like to add, since we're on this topic, that we had a briefing yesterday from HMHI, and they're operating even beyond what they anticipated, around 90%. And day 2, they were over their capacity. They made it work. There are some, I would just to summarize quickly, what was a lengthy meeting. There are a couple bugs in the system they're working through, as would be expected, but they are serving a lot of people, wide range of people. Some can be stabilized rather quickly under that 24-hour window. And I want to say 11 hours is the average time. And then 25%, I believe, this is all from memory, go on to the upper floor. But 75% are resolved relatively quickly. And again, this wide range of crises, they're seeing suicide ideation at a very high rate, which is interesting for us as we look at our broader need in the community. So just a couple of takeaways from yesterday I thought you find relevant.
Thank you. The next item you'll see there is that we continue to expand our assertive community treatment teams, or ACT teams. You'll remember those are often referred to as a hospital without walls. And so it's an interdisciplinary team. It has a psychiatrist, a prescriber, an RN, a mental health therapist, peer support specialist, et cetera, a 10-to-1 staff-patient ratio, and they are for the very severely, persistently mentally ill population, very high acute that are not succeeding in traditional outpatient programs, high utilizers of jail and hospital. They are mobile and they're 24/7, and so they're going to where clients are instead of expecting the clients to come to them. So it's a really wonderful program that is a gold standard with SAMHSA at the federal level. We are currently serving about 405 clients through 5 teams in those 3 different provider agencies that you see in that bullet there, which is about a 23% increase from last year. Our capacity will be 500, or is 500, so we still have room to grow. We feel this is a really important service to offer to the community. The next one you see there is a men's mental health residential 16-bed program through Volunteers of America that opened in 2024, Ballington House. And this program is also a very high demand type of program. Mental health residential programming has a wait list in our system, and we'll describe some of the contributing factors we believe contribute to that wait list on the next slide. And then housing. We just always share with you housing is healthcare. And I just always use the example of if you were getting out of jail in the middle of the night and it's snowing and you have a severe mental illness, are you going to go try to engage in treatment at that point or remember your next court date? Probably not. You're probably going to look for that next roof over your head and your next meal. And so housing first is really important. If you have your survival needs met, then you can engage in treatment. And you see reductions in jail recidivism. And so this is why, even though we're not in the business of housing, we're in behavioral health, you see all of those housing programs that are new. So we have in 2024, Switch Point's Canyon Rim program. That's a 41 female unit building. This is a boarding home style type of housing for the severely mentally ill folks, where you have meals prepared for you and other supports 24/7 on site. And it serves the clients on our ACT teams that you saw in the other column. In 2025, we brought on Featherstone Boarding Home, and that is through Clinical Consultants, and it's a 30-male unit building. Similar, it's a boarding home as well. And then planned opening this year, we have, again through Switch Point, another 26-unit building, and through Odyssey House, a substance use disorder type of housing building that will come on with 23 units. That was made possible through Representative Dunnigan through this general session, and they received some funding for the purchase of property and also ongoing operational expenses through that bill that he ran. And then also through our division, we'll be helping as well with some funding for the purchase of the property. And then in 2026, we plan to support First Step House in 2 new projects, 67 units and a 34-unit building. In 2027, we have Valley Behavioral Health Saltair Lofts that we're collaborating on with them, a 68-unit building. And then just that last note there is just to say that all of those providers in our system that are on the famous octopus chart that we'll show you at the very end, They are all working independently as well on housing projects. So there may be more that we're not highlighting here. This is our last slide on the treatment end for the new and notable, and then we'll switch to prevention. But in regards to those mental health residential wait lists, we just wanted to emphasize lack of housing we think is really contributing to this wait list. And the way I think of it and picture it is as a front door and a back door to those programs. If you have someone that has that type of illness and they are also unhoused, then they will likely need that level of care when they would not have needed it had they been housed. So we have clogging happening at the front door, more folks coming in that need it than you otherwise would need. And then at the back door, it's very difficult for a provider to want to discharge a person to homelessness after they've been through treatment. But it's very important that we are able to do this. And so we think that lack of housing is a real contributor. It's not clinically appropriate to keep someone in this type of housing program, residential program, longer than what they need. And so Optum has been working with us closely on training for providers on medical necessity, getting people discharged as appropriate, and then also building up all these housing programs as much as we can to try to address it. Is that okay? Workforce capacity is still an issue. It's not as bad as before, so you see improving there. But we do have some beds that are not being utilized because we just don't have the workforce. There was a behavioral health legislative audit that happened recently and has been presented to some of the interim committees. What they're recommending is for USAVE, the Utah Substance Abuse and Mental Health Advisory Council at the state level, which is actually a committee now, under the Behavioral Health Commission. They are putting together a plan to collaborate with universities and colleges to increase the number of slots again. Not a lot happened during this session, but hopefully next session, once that new plan and budget gets put in place, they can then take it to the Behavioral Health Commission, which would then work with the Health Force Council at the state level as well. So we think there'll be some movement next year. There is an ARPA 5% behavioral health rate increase that will be ending at the end of this fiscal year, which is not optimal with this situation. Representative Elison did try to get that funded during this session, but it was not funded. The Utah State bed hospital shortage, Utah State Hospital bed shortage also remains as well. There was an inflationary operational increase that also happened in one of Representative Elison's bills, but that only prevented closures of beds. It did not fund an expansion. He did ask for a 60-bed expansion, and that was not funded. So this continues to be an issue for our system and also for the homeless population in our city and county.
So I just want to emphasize to the council members from the behavioral health world, when we're hearing about the governor's initiatives and others to increase accountability and also access to treatment, we agree with those initiatives. I will say that it's easy to say we need more treatment, but the housing issue is driving a lot of what we're seeing in the streets. And I think it's really important for you guys to understand that. As Jeannie describes that, we have so many people waiting to get into treatment because folks can't get out of treatment because we're discharging them to homelessness. Many of the folks that are participating in treatment, this is really important, they're on ACT teams. They're taking their medications. They have no place to live. They're in the street. And so I think as we talk about increasing treatment, we need to remember that if these individuals that are in treatment and they're seriously mentally ill do not have a place to live and be safe, it's really hard to decrease their visibility and make it look like they're not problematic. So I just wanted to go on record as letting you guys know that. I know many of you know this. I sound like a broken record. I think the mayor hears it from me every time she meets with me, but housing is a huge issue for our population. And many times it has to be very specialized housing to be able to keep these folks safe. Thanks.
And it's hard to leave the topic of treatment for behavioral health services without touching on Medicaid. There were some positive things that you see occurred there. Mobile crisis outreach teams, we did get a rate increase, a Medicaid rate increase of 26% during the session. We also saw an increase in the peer support Medicaid rate by 35%. And then also the justice involved waiver is just huge and really exciting. The federal government approved that for Utah so that we can utilize Medicaid dollars for services for folks 90 days prior to release from jail or any carceral setting. And so I know Tim is working closely with the state Medicaid office and the sheriff's office on how do we start billing, how do we start doing all of this. And so it's an exciting time for that and really working hard on that. The next two bullets are really the hardest things to explain in the whole presentation for me. It's a little complicated, and so I kind of combine them together when I try to explain them. In the first place to start is the FMAP. So what does FMAP stand for? It stands for Federal Medical Assistance Percentage. And what it is the percentage of each Medicaid dollar spent in our state from the federal government. You're probably hearing a lot about FMAPs and the federal type of policy discussions being had right now. When I first came to behavioral health services many years ago, Legacy Medicaid was the only major Medicaid program, and the split was 70-30 at that time. So 70% federal funding and 30% local tax dollars. And so under Legacy Medicaid, behavioral health services are managed by the counties, and we also pay the match as well. Under physical health services, that's managed by the accountable care organizations and also the state. For them, their match has always been handled annually in something called a Medicaid consensus process. And what that is the legislative fiscal analyst, the state Medicaid office, and the governor's office of budget and planning get together every year and they estimate what will be the cost next year. They present that to social services appropriations and to executive appropriations, and it's just put into the budget sort of magically. For some reason, it has not been that way on the behavioral health services end. This became very important in recent years, and the reason for that is because Utah's FMAP has decreased over several years, and you'll see the percentages there. It's expected to decrease from 64.36% to 62.46% on October 1st. Doesn't sound like much of a change, but it really is, because just 1% in Salt Lake County is $1 million impact. So this is a really big deal, and so it became very important to us that behavioral health services be included in the Medicaid consensus process. And so we're really lucky, thanks to some presentations that Tim made through USAVE and the Behavioral Health Commission, it has been included now. And so we're really excited. And so that's listed under the positive change. There's some wonky sort of methodology stuff that's not optimal. Basically, they are basing their calculation on only state dollars that are used for our county match. So that's not optimal, but I think we'll be working on that in the future and work through it.
Yeah, I just really want to say, this makes the state responsible for the federal changes for our Medicaid program. So if the FMAP rate becomes less favorable for us moving forward in the future, the state is on the hook to increase the appropriation to us to help us with those match dollars. So it's a really big win for the counties across the state to be in this consensus process, and you explained it really well.
Oh, thank you. And then that last bullet is just that there is, of course, uncertainty at the federal level. We're not really sure what to anticipate with changes with the Medicaid program. We're studying it every day, everything that we hear and trying to prepare. But there could be some significant impacts.
All right, let me know if I don't speak loud enough because I have a problem with that. So I'm Elisa Stewart, I'm from the health department, and so we run the prevention for substance use and mental health challenges. So our program has 3 pillars: community coalitions, evidence-based programming, and environmental strategies. So with our coalitions, we have a really strong focus on community-centered evidence-based prevention. That's an acronym that comes from the state. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we have 17 coalitions throughout the county. Our goal is that every local community has a coalition that they can go to and provide that community voice for efforts that the county are doing in prevention and in treatment. and all of those county efforts. We have increased collaboration within this last year with partners supporting coalition work and community issues throughout the county. So, for example, we're collaborating with the Office of Homelessness and Criminal Justice Reform on violence prevention in both Midvale and Magna. We're collaborating with United Way Promise programs in Mill Creek and South Salt Lake coalitions. We are collaborating with Get Healthy Utah in 12 cities that those coalitions focus on physical activity, healthy eating, and mental health. So it's not just substance use prevention. We're focusing on a wide array of well-being issues. We really want to ensure sustainability of coalitions from the very foundation as we're building these coalitions so that they are sustainable as funding changes and all of that. Like, we really want to make sure that these coalitions are resilient. And we're embedding coalition and local voices into other efforts within the county. So this last year, the health department, they just completed their community health needs assessment, and we were able to mobilize our local coalitions, and almost all of them came out to provide their local voices for these efforts. So my role and our role at the health department is really to amplify these coalitions and these local voices and provide them the opportunity and the platform. So our evidence-based programming, we have 19 contracted evidence-based providers throughout the county who are doing various programs in various demographics in various areas. We have a really strong focus on training and technical assistance and continuous improvement with these providers. We want them to see us as partners in prevention and not as like an auditor. So we're, funding them as well.
Madam Chair, I have a question for you. In the West Side, can you tell me any kind of organization in these coalitions?
Yeah, so West Side meaning like Magna, Glendale,
From
Rose Park.
From Herriman to Magna.
Yeah. So we have a lot of coalitions out west. We've got Central Ninth, which focuses Salt Lake City kind of proper. We've got Magna, we have Kearns coalitions. We also, right now, we're developing a Taylorsville coalition. We're in discussions with them as well. And then a lot of our providers do focus a lot kind of on that west side. We have, youth services that do a lot of programs out there, boys and girls clubs, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We have logic models in the area plan. I think there's like 40 pages of logic models. And so we can direct you to where you can look at those logic models for the various programs. And in those, they'll kind of tell you like which zip codes and which areas that they're focusing on. Did that answer your question?
No, my question exactly is if you have been working with any specific organization in the community, like any kind of nonprofit or community neighborhood-based organization.
Yeah. So Spy Hop is an organization kind of Salt Lake City that they are the fiduciary for the Central Ninth Coalition. We also work really closely with Neighborhood House, and they have the Youth Works and Neighbor Works. They're located within Rose Park, and so they work really closely with the West Side Coalition, but they also do a lot of our youth programming out there. And then some of these other providers that I mentioned do work out in the kind of the West Side. I can talk to you more after, or if you have more direct question.
Yeah, I have more questions, but let's continue the presentation.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to talk after and kind of direct you to where you can find a lot of that information. So yeah, we really want to build relationships and networks between the coalitions that we're developing and these providers. We don't want them to work in silos. We want them to work in collaborations so that the coalitions have a voice with these providers, such as Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Volunteers of America, and vice versa. And we really want to be able to create resource sharing platform between these organizations. We hear a lot from our coalitions and other community partners that they're not aware of all the various resources that are in the county, either treatment or prevention. And so we really want to be able to provide that platform so that they are, providing that resource sharing between each others. This last year, and we're going to continue this next year, is this collaboration from the health department, and we're supporting USU Extension in their kind of school-based prevention efforts. They call it CREST, which is a really innovative program that they're implementing within the county. Specifically, they started in Granite this year. They're expanding to Murray School District, but it's the school participates in selecting their evidence-based programming and providing kind of that local community context and connection to parents within their local communities. And then we launched last year, we piloted last year YAGI, which is our Youth Advocacy Grant Initiatives, and we're continuing that this year. Our grant is actually open at the moment with this youth-led opportunities for community engagement and civic engagement, where youth groups in the county, we're funding 5 youth groups to increase those advocacy projects related to substance use and related risk and protective factors. So if you know of any youth groups that may be interested, we can definitely send you that opportunity that you can direct them to. And then our environmental strategies that we are doing for alcohol and tobacco. We increased a lot of our environmental strategies this last year, and we are partnering and collaborating with all of those alcohol and tobacco agencies that are doing those compliance checks. Alcohol compliance checks are done through local law enforcement agencies. It's a completely voluntary program. And so we really want them to encourage to complete these compliance checks so that, we're reducing access for youth in the community. This last year, we were able to get 6 new cities on board that, started these compliance checks. And then tobacco compliance checks are done within the health department, but not within my program in environmental health. And so we've had stronger relationships with their program to help increase kind of that retailer training and retailer access. And then something that we're hearing from a lot of these different agencies that we've been partnering with is that they really want the community voice to hold their kind of retailers and their own community accountable for access of these, substances within their community for youth. And so, connecting them with these coalitions to provide that accountability to their local retailers. And so it's not just coming from an enforcement end, it's coming from kind of that community voice. And then, as usual, it's probably something that you guys have seen other areas as well. We partner with the state in their prevention messaging campaigns. Gray Matters is marijuana prevention, and Parents Empowered is our alcohol prevention.
All right, so the area plan is in 3 different sections, as you might guess. It has mental health, substance use disorders, and prevention services. So on the mental health section, we try to summarize that for you. And so we do have required by the state 10 mandated services that we're required to provide throughout the county. And you see all of those listed there. If you were to read the area plan, it would go into great detail, kind of minutia, to the point of minutia, on what all these programs are throughout the community and the services that are provided there. In parentheses, we have updated for you the number of programs or providers that we or Optum contract with between the 2 of us. So there's actually about 133 different mental health providers that we contract with. One provider could be Odyssey House, which serves about 1,000 people a day. So just to give you a sense that or some providers could be a mom and pop shop. So it's varied as you think about that 133 number. Over on the right, you'll see the actual individuals served on the mental health side in FY24 was 13,130. And then the budget for that was about 103 million. And budgeted in FY26, it's pretty similar, a slight increase, 13,300. The budget goes down a bit there to 101 million. Reason for that is because there were some capital expenses for the receiving center in the past. On the substance use disorder section, instead of having mandated services throughout the state, we have instead the ASAM levels of care. That definition is over on the right in tiny little writing. It stands for the American Society of Addiction Medicine Patient Placement and Continuing Stay Criteria. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's a great system. And actually, you have a lot, I think, to be proud of in Salt Lake County. We provide all of the services that you've seen here today, the 10 mandated services and all of these, and not all counties do that. I'm not even sure there's one other county that does this. And so we're really proud of this, and you should be too. It's amazing. And so again, we did update the number of providers for each level of care for you that we're contracting with. Over on the right, what you'll see is the number in FY24 was 6,400 individuals that were served. That was about a $28 million system. And then in FY26, it's about 6,650. And then again, it's close to 28 million. Wanted to just touch on why would there be such a difference between mental health and SUD services? The reason for that is because Utah has expanded Medicaid. When that occurred, the Medicaid plans that cover largely the SUD population are now covered through Targeted Adult Medicaid and through the Accountable Care Organization, or UMIC Medicaid plan. These are managed by TAM. Targeted Adult Medicaid is managed by the state, and the other Medicaid plan is managed, as we said before, by Accountable Care Organizations. And so don't worry. There are a substantial number of folks, in addition to that 6,000 in the substance use disorder field, that are being served. It just happens to be in our plan. That's the way it breaks out.
So I mentioned that everything we do is under this community-centered evidence-based prevention, which kind of has 4 key things that need to be included. So the first is the diversity of stakeholders. So in our coalitions and in the work we do, we really want to make sure that all sectors and stakeholders have a voice and that are represented within the coalition. So it's community-driven, owned and operated. We don't come in and tell each coalition what they need to focus on. We are providing the technical assistance, the education, the platform, and then they get to, kind of drive the coalition. And data-driven means that we really want them to be making these kind of informed decisions based on their local data. We all know that, Cottonwood Heights is very different from Magna City, and so we want to make sure that they are utilizing their own local data to make the decisions within their community, and so we provide that for them. And then this evidence-based programs, policies, and practices, right? So based on their data and what their priorities are, we kind of do that matchmaking and kind of help them connect to the evidence-based programs and practices that will reduce those through evidence has shown that it will reduce those kind of negative outcomes. We focus on risk and protective factors. That's the key of prevention science, is identifying the risk factors that lead to kind of these negative outcomes, and then we are supporting the protective factors and expanding protective factors throughout our county that buffer against those risk factors. It's almost impossible to reduce all risk for all youth. And so these risk and protective factors predict numerous unhealthy behaviors. So as we mentioned in our coalitions, we're focusing on violence prevention, substance use. It can even be teen pregnancy, depression, anxiety, suicide ideation. And so because of that, right, we're working upstream and we're preventing these things before they even are happening. And then with the return on investment, right, I have this quote that says, behavioral health problems in childhood and adolescence take a heavy toll over a lifetime, with significant impacts on rates on economic independence, morbidity, and mortality. I get the question all the time, like, why does prevention focus so much on youth? And it's because we will have a really strong, kind of future as if we're focusing on those risk and protective factors as their youth, then we'll have better outcomes as they get to be adults. So our costs this last year for FY24, we served 43,000, almost 44,000. Those are duplicated numbers. It takes between 8 to 10 hours to actually change behaviors through some of our programming. This next year, we do plan on serving about 5,252, which duplicated kind of estimates around 50,000. So you'll see that kind of this next time.
Can I just ask a question? Sorry, we're just sidebarring over here trying to figure out.
Yeah.
When we're talking dollars expended on this slide and the last two, is that the total, or does that federal plus state plus county, or is it?
Yeah, so on my prevention slide, our main source of funding is the block grant that also funds these guys. So we get 30% of that the block grant, but we do have some other funding sources through state grants as well. And so we have like state opioid settlement funds that is also contributed some to this number. So the difference between FY24 and FY26 is because we did get, there was an increase, there was about an $850,000 increase in the block grant this last year, but then we also got like 2 other grants that supported the work that we're doing.
But for like the substance use
Yeah.
and mental health,
Yeah. That's all, that's combined
It's
total
the
spend.
total of all
Total
funding
spend,
sources.
total
You're just
spend.
trying
So it
to figure
includes
out what
Medicaid and
percentage
contract
is-
dollars, yes.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So with the return on investment, so these are kind of the evidence-based research has shown that if you spend every dollar on these programs, then you can generate so many dollars in the benefits, right, of saved on those economic mortality, morbidity outcomes. And so healthcare costs, treatment costs is a big one, right? And so we've all heard that like an ounce of prevention is equal to a pound of cure, right? And so this is kind of the proof of the pudding, right? And so these are the various programs. A lot of these programs, most of these programs are operating in various places throughout the county. The good behavior game we're not directly funding. That's the 1 to 63. But that is implemented through our school districts because school districts are very strong prevention partners. And so that's implemented within the classroom. But some of these other programs we are operating within the county in various settings. And so I just did some like rough numbers just based on this slide and the programs that we funded this last year. We funded about $1.3 million in these various fundings. So based on these calculations, it would be we saved about $10.5 million in those economic outcomes this last year. So unfortunately, it takes about 10 to 15 years for us to see those outcomes because, we are focusing on youth. And so, hopefully in the next 10 years, we're alleviating some of our behavioral health partners' burden. And then the last thing I wanted to add is this year we are expanding our protective factor kind of things. Prevention science incorporates protective factors within this research base called the social development strategy. The social development strategy is a very low cost, easy way for us to implement protective factors that kind of buffer against the risk factors in our community. The key things are we're providing opportunities for pro-social involvement, we're providing the skills to succeed in those opportunities, and then we are recognizing or providing rewards for those same pro-social opportunities that these kids are involved in. Those 3 things, opportunity, skills, and recognition, really facilitates that bonding. And so they're bonded to their communities, their schools, their peers, their families that are providing these opportunities and recognition. And really that's what facilitates, guiding those healthy standards and those clear standards. And that's what will, create the protection and that will buffer against all the risks.
You'll find other information in the area plan should you choose to look through it. There'll be budgets, there's fee policies and schedules, logic models, and other information. And last but not least is the famous octopus slide. And so this is like the last thing you'd ever want to put on a PowerPoint slide because it's really overwhelming. I think somebody said it makes my brain explode. And we provided you an acronym legend just for this slide. But it is a really great slide to have if you're ever wanting to just remember how does your system work here. And if you have constituents contacting you and you want to understand it better, the best way to look at this is just look at those top 3 boxes. Those are the 3 ways that funding comes to us. You have federal Medicaid dollars, you have state legislative dollars, appropriations, and you have federal block grants that come down through the state. The state sends them over. You are the local authority, which I forgot to mention in the first slide. But by statute, you're the local authority for local mental health and substance use disorder services. So that's why you're featured on this slide. Of course, those are administered under the mayor's office and then through our division. If you slide all the way over to the left, you'll see jail services. We do contract for the SUD services within the jail. The sheriff contracts for the mental health services or has their own employees to provide those. You'll see also on that next arm is the Salt Lake County Health Department, and that's where prevention falls with Elisa. And so the 9 coalitions she mentioned are all listed there for you. The 19 providers are all listed there for you. The numbers at the bottom that you heard before as well. And then if you come back up to the Division of Behavioral Health Services just under the County Council and start to slide down there, you'll see substance use disorder and mental health services we're required to provide for low-income folks in our county. And so for the non-Medicaid services, you see 2 octopus arms going out. Those are for the non-Medicaid services, and we manage those ourselves in our office. We only have 28 folks in our office. We're serving about 18,000 individuals each year in the county. Reason for that is what you're seeing there on that slide, and this is like a public-private partnership that you hear about, where we're pushing the dollars out to the programs in our community. We love this because it makes programs more geographically dispersed for residents. They don't have to come to just 1 or 2 county buildings with just county employees. And also each program is very different and tailored to like a different personality for folks. So you may fit really well in one and really not like another one. And this gives client choice for that. And then the last reason we really like this model is that when you contract with nonprofits, we feel like for every dollar that we give a nonprofit, we're getting about 25% in addition, or 25 cents more back because of all of their fundraising that they do. So we think it's a really great model. And so you'll see the SUD cylinder there with 14 different providers. And you'll see over on the right-hand side is all the mental health providers. Optum manages the Medicaid dollars. They're contracting with all of the same providers that we are, so that if a person switches from being unfunded to funded, in the background, the provider can be switching those funding streams and hopefully making that seamless to the client. And so even though we say Optum manages our Medicaid system, please know that we are in contact with Optum, I would say daily. Meet with them very frequently and are constantly organizing the programs to be put in place, et cetera. Anything you want to add on that part? And so what you see is 133 providers that Optum contracts with on the mental health side. That covers ACT teams, outpatient, inpatient, residential, all of those levels of care that you saw previously. And then you see crisis services. We talked about those already. You see inpatient, so all the hospitals that we're contracting with, and then the civil commitment process is that final one. The last one I'll show you is that middle cylinder, support services. So what the heck is that? This is run through our office, case managers that are seated in our office, and clients as they come in, we're helping them with bus passes, work clothes, work tools, driver's license fees, food handler permit fees, birth certificate fees, et cetera. And then at the very bottom, you see housing. We are actually housing about 1,400 people a year, even though we're not in the business of housing. And there's a great couple slides in the area plan that shows you all of the housing programs that we are investing in fiscally to help our clients. And then our providers are doing more housing is the very bottom one on top of that. So I think you are very brave to put up with this whole presentation. We're done. I hope that wasn't too much.
I just want to just really quickly for new members especially, and I think we talked about this when we met Monday. This is an area plan. It is a plan. We have to submit it to the state by the 15th in order for us to draw down our state dollars from the Office of Substance Abuse and Mental Health beginning July 1st. But at any moment in time, if you guys have questions, concerns, want to meet with us, talk about issues in the plan, things you'd like to see change in the plan. This is a working document and we can make those adjustments. We would work with the state. So I just want the members to know that you have the ability as a local authority to meet with us at any point in time and request changes or updates on information. And we will avail ourselves to you immediately to do that. So I do want to really ask if we can, because we are on a really tight vice to get this here to the 15th. We have to submit that the sooner we could get an approval on the plan would be very much appreciated.
Chair, I have a question when you're ready.
Okay, Lori, anybody else in the room has questions too? Carlos and Amy, did you have one too?
I just was.
Okay, Lori, I'll go ahead and go to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, what are we doing for those who have issues for their support systems at home? Or do we have programs we're working with currently to help? We take people out of their environment and help them out, but what are we doing for those who are going back into the same environment? Are there programs or things we're working with to help clean up the home environments and things they're going back to? Are there any programs like that currently in our range of what we're doing?
Councilwoman Stringham, that's a good question. So almost all clinical programs are based in family systems approach. If there's a family member that is in need, whether it's a youth or even an adult, the clinical program is hopefully going to be working with that individual and understanding they're part of a family system. Jeannie mentioned the ACT teams. ACT teams do go into homes. They do go into the home environment and help family members with the individual that's struggling with serious mental illness. We work with the Division of Youth Services, has a program that specifically can go in home and help families to manage issues that are happening with youth. So there are programs specifically for that, and all of our programs that are evidence-based should be approaching individuals and trying to assess what the needs in the household are. And you mentioned pulling them out. That's really hopefully the last thing that needs to occur. That's why I think when we talk about everyone's wanting more residential care, when you pull someone out of a family system or any type of a support system and put them into residential care, you really are having a moment or pause in time that clinically then you have to address separating that family member from that support system. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, mostly. I guess I want to understand maybe and I'll follow up afterwards, but understand what we're doing, because as I understand it, oftentimes we're taking a fish out of a fish tank that's dirty and filthy and all of that. We're cleaning them off, we're getting them healthy, we're doing what we can do. And when we release them from care, they're going right back into the dirty fish tank. And so what are we doing to create and clean up the environment they're going back into, I guess, is more the concept. A lot of that's family units and issues in the community they're going back to. So that's kind of my thought process.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would be happy to meet with you and we can show you some of the specific programs that are doing what you're talking about. So anytime you'd like to reach out, I'd be happy to schedule that and discuss that with you. Sure.
This is related, but family conflict, family management are one of the key risk factors for substance use and mental health problems. And so a lot of our programs do focus, our prevention programs do focus on families and providing those skills and, opportunities for families to develop, plans together to, kind of prevent problems, either whether they're indicated, they're already beginning these problems, or, before they even happen. So building stronger communities.
Okay, Carlos, go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is great. I have thank you for opening the door. Because you said that this is a working document, and I would love to get involved more about this. This is very important for our community. But at the same time, as you said in the beginning, we don't have too much time to go deep about this because the legislation, and I would like to find, or we would like to find a different way, or maybe we can know in advance about this budget, and also how can we bring the community involved? Because of course, I'm Latino, I came from that community too, an immigrant, and I know there's so many people in that community don't know about what you do, and maybe some people in other communities don't know. In the same time, even in the general community, I have received some phone calls asking me for this kind of services, or if we provide this kind of services. That's why I would like to understand more what you do and what can I do. And in the same time, I have more questions, but maybe it's for another meeting. I don't want to look dumb in this meeting, or maybe something that you already explained. But I would like my suggestion. Maybe you are doing that. Is having more community involved in these programs and also what's happening, especially from the district that I represent. The West Side is very interesting and is a very diverse community in many ways. That's why, like I said, as a councilman from that area, I would like to understand more. But at the same time, I would like to know in other meeting, the ways that our community, our constituent can be involved in this specific topic, because for me it's important, and I think for everybody in this room it's important. Thank you.
Any other council members add comments, questions?
Oh, can I make one?
Oh, yes, of course.
Just a question. As we look at our providers that we're using, remind me how often we go out for RFP on that.
Every 6 years.
It's every 6 years.
With a Medicaid provider, Councilwoman, we can add a new Medicaid provider, and we're looking at that on a regular basis.
Okay.
And Tim,
So,
when is that up
yeah.
again?
So that we are 3.5 years away. Is that right? Yeah.
Okay.
But as far as like adding Medicaid providers, or if there are other additional providers that need to be added, we have the ability to do that at any moment in time.
Okay. And I assume like if we have issues with any of those providers, you guys jump in and work with them to get those resolved. So
Yeah,
we always have the best service, because I assume we could end a contract at any time if there was a big issue or something, right?
That's correct. And we just had a huge legislative audit. I want to call out my audit team. Brian Curry's here. He's over that team. We were identified in language in the legislative audit as the gold standard of auditing in the behavioral health system. Salt Lake County's audit team was. So it really was when they looked at all the counties, they saw us as being the gold standard. We're doing clinical audits, qualitative audits. We're doing financial audits, matching the billings to the clinical record to make sure the services were billed appropriately. So it is something we watch carefully.
Great. Well, I love the information you've shared today. I'm going to save this slideshow actually, because as we get legislators or others who wonder what Salt Lake County does once we're wall-to-wall cities, this is a prime example of great service that we provide. And, because of the state too, they put it on our shoulders. And so anyway, I think that this is great stuff. And I feel like you have such a good, capable team. So Kelly, good job. And Tim, for all your hard work, and all of the rest of you that are involved. We feel lucky to have you. So thank you.
Madam Chair, can I follow up to this line of a question that Councilwoman asked? If we have like a contract, you're monitoring your point about auditing and all that. If there is revenue made available because we pull out of a contract, do we have the ability to be nimble or jump in? I mean, I think this point that the councilman's raising about family, it looks like we already do that. Could we do it better? Yes. If there's another pressing issue, like right now, fentanyl crisis, can we be nimble in that contract period?
Yes, absolutely. So even if there is underexpend on a contract, there's been a clinical trend where one contract provider hasn't utilized all their dollars. We at the division then work to distribute those dollars to the other appropriate providers for that population they can serve. So we have the ability, if there's underexpend or a terminated contract.
Could we
to
add
move those
one?
Yes.
And
I don't know of one. I'm just saying, could we, if it seemed, because that's there's a reason that we go with that contracted period of time. You want to give certainty. A lot of these providers who are receiving the funding from us need to staff up. They need to adjust their operations. But the longer you go, the less nimble you are. And I would want us to be both.
Yeah, I think the one thing, there's a lot of variables involved here, right? So the one thing I would say, the workforce shortage issue also relates to quality of care. And as we've tried to increase all the new programs, ACT and all the other programs that we're doing, we really are putting a big draw on the workforce. When you're adding a whole bunch of new members to the workforce, you have to really keep your eyes on quality of care, and that becomes apparent. Just the crisis care center opening up. Think of all the new clinicians that are now there working. So I think as you increase funding or new programs, you have to be cognizant of having all those things in place to support that growth.
I did have a question. You were right, Suzanne. Going back to the assessment, not right now, but maybe at a later time, I would love more information on how our contracts are assessed with our providers and our I guess all our providers from prevention to to treatment and specifically what those metrics are. Really great to hear that we're already setting that tone, but would love more details on exactly what we measure in terms of the success and how that funding is tied to it.
So just quickly, in our logic models for the prevention side, it'll have at the bottom, it'll say like how they're measuring the success of the program. Because we know prevention takes a while, right? Like we're trying to prevent substance use, right? Like it's hard to measure them not doing something. And so those programmatic outcomes are kind of the key piece, right? Every program has their pre-post or whatever, and so making sure that we collect and evaluate constantly. So
Okay, any other questions? I do have a few, actually. Did you have a question? Okay, I do have a couple of questions, actually, but thank you for the presentation. This is like so much stuff. I'm like mind boggled here. I'm like, but it's great work, and the fact that we're one of the leading counties, I guess, on all this, I think is awesome. So, I mean, mental health affects everybody, and there's a lot of things that we're addressing. One question I have, though, as far as the mental health narrative section that you have mandated services required by statute, those are ones we're contracting with. And so is that how that works?
Yeah, so it goes, that's a great question, Councilwoman. So it goes, the state says, these are the things you have to do. Those
Yeah.
are the 10 mandated services. And then what we do, as Jeannie described, we contract directly with the nonprofit providers to deliver those services based on the state requirements.
Okay.
And I think sometimes we are kind of invisible. Like you'll hear about everyone talking about great things about VOA detox or the new crisis care center or the CATS program in the jail.
Yeah.
That's this. We're the payers for those services and help coordinate those services. So many times, because we are really a payer and coordinator of a network model, it looks a little bit invisible, but this is what makes all of those providers able to do what they're doing in the community.
So, okay, so just for instance, like the new mental health crisis, we're in there. We've got our people in there working and doing the work that we need to do to.
Correct. We are actually, the Division of Behavioral Health is receiving all the state dollars to run that program.
Okay.
And they're billing us, or if someone comes in there that does not have any insurance and they need to serve them, they're billing us, we're paying them for that service and able to make sure the Medicaid's in place for them and other things, yes.
Okay, seems pretty specialized then when they're in each of these environments. Another thing, I think that they're getting at, and Natalie on her questions is with some of these contracts, it's just accountability at the end of the day, making sure that these organizations are accountable for what they're providing and that we're getting a product out of what we're paying them to do and that it's working is what I hope to see. And I mean, there's so much going on here. Hopefully it's happening, but I mean, I'm sure it's hard. I mean, to monitor every little thing, but I hope to see accountability in all these things that we're doing. And then to discuss what Councilmember Stringham was getting at, I think I kind of know, I mean, I definitely agree with what she's saying. And she and I were at a gala for, it's called Your Living Proof, I believe that's what it's called. And I think they're out of Utah County, but they are working to help people that have addiction, and they are helping the families. So they're focusing on that family unit. And, you know, like she said, it's, you know, some of these people don't have families to go back to. They go through programs, they're going back by themselves, right? They're in a single home, and there's different environments that they're going back. So we were thinking about that as we were there because the focus was really on the families, and we're like, there's a lot of people that don't have families and they're just going back by themselves and they have isolation and issues like that. So we were just wondering how we can do better in that realm, I guess. And
I think I would answer that. I'm going to ask Brian Curry, my clinical associate director, is behind me today, and I'll ask him to maybe even put together a list of the programs that are really focused in that arena, and see if we could send that to you guys so that you can see what we're doing, and then we could, you know, meet and talk about, is there additional things that we could be doing, or a program like the model you visited, that be something we could implement?
Okay.
I will say one last thing. The programs we use, like the programs you guys are familiar with, Volunteers America, First Step House, Valley, Odyssey House, these are the programs that all of the other Medicaid payers use. Select Health has chosen them to pay and serve their folks. Healthy U, Molina, Health Choice, the state themselves. So I just want you to know the programs that we're using are the very programs that all of the other payers, Medicaid products are doing and using as well. Most of them are accredited, like Joint Commission accredited, as far as delivering the services they provide.
Sure, okay. And I will note you were there as well. So sorry, Carlos, at that Utah County event we were all at. There was a lot of interest in what they were doing, and we kind of took some things home with us. And so it's kind of on our minds. So anyway, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will have a big event in the West Side in a few weeks. I would love to invite you to introduce yourself, and this event will be full of leaders, community leaders. Please come, and you know, I would like to having you there.
Okay. How do we find out about you? Will you send us an email?
Yes, I will send you the information.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Suzanne?
Oh,
No?
I was just going to make a motion to approve the
Okay.
plan, and thank you so much for your work. And I have found that when constituents have questions, you have all been so responsive, and I really, really appreciate your work and service.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve 8.6, consideration of the Division of Behavioral Health Services fiscal year 26 area plan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to, thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, you bet. You bet. Thanks. Okay. 8.7, consideration of amendments to Countywide Policy 2010, Presenter Smearenslaw, Salt Lake County Records Management and Archives Manager. Hello. Bye. Okay.
Good
It's a
afternoon,
mouthful.
Council.
Hello.
And before Councilwoman Newton-Winder leaves, I was going to say, we're going to keep the piano tuned, by the way. So don't worry, we'll support any duets that are requested. We're here with a really quick item today. There was a legislative change that necessitated this policy tweak that our Records Management and Archives Director, Maren Slaw, is going to talk about briefly.
Thank you. And then real quick, just before I start, I did want to just send the sentiment in the room to say thank you to Councilmember Bradshaw, always being super supportive to the Records Management Archives Division. You always understand how important public transparency is and the work that we do out in the archives for preservation. So just wanted to say thank you for your work, and I'm excited to see you on the other side of the table as well. So just wanted to say thank you for that.
And we look forward to your official records coming out to archives.
I have already sent that official email
Might as well
to your
plug
policy
that
advisor.
while we're sitting up here.
So
be
just
riveting.
shameless plug right there.
14 years of budget books.
That's what we love out there. So anyway, as Megan stated, I'm just here really quickly to talk about an update to Public Access Policy 2010, just in answer to Senate Bill 277. What this did to GRAMA was it dissolved the State Records Committee. What the State Records Committee was in charge of was hearing GRAMA request appeals, and then also approval of retention schedules. Legislative session just really wanted to clean that up, kind of maybe streamline that appeal process. So what it has done, it has created the Government Records Office. We don't really know what that looks like yet. They're still kind of moving things around at the Records and Archives Service at the state. But what we do know is this office is now going to be tasked with hearing GRAMA appeals. And so just cleaned up a few statutes within GRAMA. And then on section 5.4 in our current policy, we're just updating that to say, instead of going to the State Records Committee, we will be now sending our appeals to these the Government Records Office. So very, very simple, not too big of a deal, I would say. And then just want to, anytime I'm in front of this body, I do like to say thank you to the Records Information Management Committee. You'll see the names of those individuals that sit on that committee. And then again, our legal counsel, just also helping me with any kind of changes when there are policy updates in the legislative session, records requests, or appeals, and then again, retention schedules. So again, just always like to take the opportunity to say thank you to them. And that's it. So if anybody has any questions about that change or any other.
Any questions? Yes.
I guess I don't understand the process. There's a request made, and then there's let's say there's a denial. is your office then, or is, what office reviews
Yeah.
that denial?
I'll give you the spiel. So when a public records request is made, it goes to that agency. They review the records request, and if they do need to deny it, they'll send the requester the process, which is they then can appeal their decision to what's just called the agency designee, which is usually the manager or the division director, and then they then review that request. And if they uphold that appeal, this decision, the denial, it would then go to Megan. Megan is the Chief Administrative Officer of Appeals for the county. She then reviews the request, works with legal counsel, decides, should we weigh the balance of public transparency, or does it need to stay depending on the classification, whether it's private or controlled? And so then after Megan's decision, it would then, we let the public know they have this choice to appeal to this new government records office or even to third district court. They can bypass this government office and go straight to court.
So it's kind of a tweak to the third level of appeal. It goes up through the division. Then, yes, I have this assignment as the Chief Administrative Officer of Appeals for the whole county, comes to me. And then instead of going to that previous committee, it will now go to this office instead.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve.
okay.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve item 8.7. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Any
thank you.
opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to item 8.8, Human Resources Policy Revisions. Presenter Nilsa Carter, Salt Lake County Associate Division Director of Human Resources. Hello.
Hi, I
How are
feel like
you?
this is anticlimactic after all the conversations that have been happening. Sorry, I'm
good.
here to
It's all
talk
important.
HR policy. Okay, well, thank you. I only have 3 policies for consideration today. They are policy 2-400, which is new hire and separation requirements. You can keep going. Policy 2-1100. Oh, am I in charge of it? Oh, I did not know this. Look at that. Thank you. All right, so 2-1100 personnel records, and then 5-100, which is pay and employment practices. Just kind of by way of overview, most of these policy, oops, I just went the wrong direction. You should never put me in charge of electronics. Whose bright idea was this? All right, so, all righty. 2-400, all of these, by the way, are to comply with our payroll audit that we just received not too long ago. And so you've received this, so I'm not going to bore you with reading the recommendation. However, overarching, basically what the changes did is clean up the language and then comply with the payroll audit recommendations. And as such, we added a new section for separation requirements, which, by the way, is kind of odd that we didn't have it. So this is a good change. Alrighty, so here are just in summary the changes that took place. In the title section, we changed the title and added the word separation. In section 2C, we cleaned up the training related information. No substantive change, just simply rearranging the language so it's consistent. And then the last section there is the new section, which adds offboarding requirements. So the agency must submit an electronic personnel action request, terminate agency-specific access, and terminate county access, which, by the way, was the big deal, right? Throughout the county, there was not consistency in how agencies were doing that. So by putting it in policy, we're hoping that that changes. And it should be done no later than the last day worked. Termination of county access submitted through IT includes but is not limited to network access as defined by the Salt Lake County-wide Information Technology Standard on regular and service accounts. This was truly a conversation and a partnership with IT to make sure that all the key areas that we have access to are eliminated upon separation. Termination of email access, badge access, keypad, just the basic things as applicable. And then the use of a new updated human resources offboarding checklist that will be posted to the website after this policy hopefully is approved for everyone to utilize as a guiding tool. Any questions on that? Sure.
Just to follow up on something that we maybe discussed last year, that, in our county Parks and Rec, for example, if a teenager wants to work during the summer, in the Harriman Rec Center, they have to physically come to downtown to be able to sign on. Has that issue been addressed, that people
I-
can get hired and not have to come trek across the valley to be able to work?
Yes, I am so happy you asked that because sometimes we don't always share that feedback. We created a virtual onboarding process where they can go online, put in all their information, and we meet virtually with them to get their information, just to verify the key information. And yeah, they do not have to come into our office.
That's a good win. Thank you.
Yes,
I'm glad to
you're
hear that.
welcome.
Thanks.
And just to share that a little bit further, the sheriff's office has applied virtuals as well as the DA's office recently. So,
Thank you. That's good to hear.
yeah, no problem. I'm glad you asked. Now, let's see if I can do this in the right direction. All right. Personnel records, 2-1100. This was a simple change. Right now, the way technology has advanced, we have records that are electronic. We have a hiring system. Since 2022, all our applications are stored in there, but the policy states that they're all in one file. So in order to correct that and be consistent, we changed, I'm getting ahead of myself. Clean up the policy. So what we did is we changed the word file to records so that we can incorporate both formats of hard copies or electronic. So our applicant tracking system, which has all the new applications, are stored in there. And then also our training records, which are in our LMS system, and they have been for quite some time. Now we've addressed that and cleaned that up as well. So again, a good change. Any questions on that? Okay, and then the last one, 5-100, cleans up old language, and then we added a new tool to this policy, which I'll cover in a second here. So in section 2, I1, clarifies bonus award documentation to include outstanding performance, an EIN, the date, and award amount. We initially, just to be transparent, looked at possibly adding a form, and when that was taken to the ECC, it was decided that we don't need another form, but we just need the requirements in there. So there you go. Efficiency at its best. So then the next thing, we delete the reference to incentive plans approved prior to January 3rd of 2022 because that's outdated. And then the last piece here is that we added a sign-on compensation in an effort to recruit staff in high turnover or hard to fill positions. And right now we have the ability to retain staff and compensate that way, but not the sign-on. So we've added that, and of course, we added that these requests require council approval. And that's it.
All right. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you for the information. And looks like we do need to vote on this one.
Madam Chair, I will motion approval of item 8.
Second.
8,
Let's go.
the HR policy.
Y'all are quick. Thank you.
Okay, motion and a second to approve 8.8. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Okay, moving on to 8.9, and this is an informational update on the council agenda and minutes software project. And our presenter is Isaac Hyam from Salt Lake County Council Office. He's our director. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Council. The nice thing about being in charge of the agenda is I was able to make sure I wasn't right after Arlen's thing so that I wasn't a weepy mess coming into this. But just here to give you an informational update on our agenda and minutes software project. So a little bit of the history. The council has used our current system, Granicus, since 2018. Before that, I think Arlen, Councilmember Bradshaw, and Councilmember Winder Newton are the only ones who remember the olden times when we were in the Stone Age doing it in a Word document. So that contract is set to expire at the end of 2025, and in anticipation of that, we issued an RFP in the fall of 2024, and the selection committee unanimously chose a new product, Civic Plus Agenda and Meeting Management. So some of the pros of the new system, it is entirely web browser based, and it is compatible with multiple operating systems. I know some of your staff in previous times with Mac operating systems had trouble with our existing system. It wasn't super friendly with the Mac operating system, so we're very excited to have a web browser based product. And it has a more modern and user-friendly interface, both on the user side as well as on the public side. I don't know if any of you have ever looked at our public-facing page for Granicus with our agendas, but it does have a bit of a dated feel. So we're very excited to have a more modern kind of feel to brighten up our website on the public-facing side as well. And then it also has single sign-on with our county credentials. So everyone listening, please remember to use your .gov email address. Our current system is still keyed to the old .org email addresses, so some people have been getting tripped up on that. A little bit on the transition timeline. We're projected to go live with Civic Plus on our June 3rd council meeting. We're planning to do a parallel period with our existing system as the backup. This will require users to submit items in both systems, which we understand is very annoying. We're hoping to keep that period as short as possible. Once we confirm that all facets of the system, agenda management, the live streaming, and the minutes component for the clerks, once we're convinced that all of those are working properly, we'll end the parallel period and just be fully on Civic Plus. So as part of that transition, we've created an internal county SharePoint site that has training resources, the recorded trainings that we've had with Civic Plus, as well as some documents to help folks navigate the new system. And Lauren's going to be doing an announcement on the council website, as well as our social media for the public. The nice thing about the public side is if they have been accessing our agendas and minutes on our website previously, it's going to be no change for them. The links will still be the same place. It'll just take them to the new portal instead of the existing one. So I know that a lot of you like to use your analog paper agendas and notes, which is totally fine. Please feel free to continue doing that. However, for the council members in the board portal in the new system, this is kind of what you will see if you want to access the system. So as you can see up there at the top, you have the agenda and the packet. You click on either of those, it will open a PDF just like we currently do with our agendas and packets. However, you can kind of see the agenda items going down there. If you were to click on one of them, I created a sample one here from one of our old agenda items. So this is the first reading of an ordinance of Salt Lake County Council dissolving the Arbor Park Neighborhood Redevelopment Project Area. So you can see it's in section 9, legislative business, 9.1. You can see who it's created by. This says me because I created it for this test, but in real life, this would say Kirsten Swinyard, who submitted this item. You can see which department it's from. You can see the sponsors for council items. This will list the council members that are sponsoring this item. The mayor's portfolio, they're going to be listing the divisions that's coming from. And then you can see the recommended action that this is a discussion with a vote needed. It will say informational or whatever. And then you can see the attachments there that will be included in the packet. It's got the staff report as well as the ordinance change. It'll tell you what kind of documents those are. They're both PDFs there, but whether it's a Word document or an image or PowerPoint. So you can click on those and those will open up for you. Now on the public portal side, this is what the residents will see on our county website. You can see the calendar of events there. You can event categories, whether you want to search by council meeting, redevelopment agency, TRCC, it'll have all those available on that drop-down menu there. And then it also has that search function there. So, oops. Let's say I was really interested in that sample item that I mentioned earlier, and I wanted to look for that Arbor Park item. So I searched there, and you can see it has 4 results. You can see the Arbor Park is mentioned in the packet. It's mentioned in the agenda. It's also mentioned in the ordinance that was attached, as well as in the agenda item there within the system. So pretty nice feature, much more modern than our current system. We're hoping that it's more user-friendly, both for staff internal to the county, as well as for any residents in the public that are wanting to engage with our meetings. So if you click on that meeting, you'll see this page will come up. You can see the meeting files there with the preview of the PDF of the agenda. You can check out the agenda packet. Over there on the left where it says meeting media, if the meeting is currently live, that's where you can access the live stream. If it's a past meeting, that's where you'll be able to access the recording of the meeting. I think, yeah. So we just want to thank our core project team. We've got myself, Hua, and Lauren from the council office, Michelle from the mayor's office, Nicole from the clerks, and Angela, our project manager in IT. And while she's not a member of the core project team, I want to give a shout out to Catalina. She did a huge help for us in renaming all of the historical data that will be imported in from all of our past meetings. So we want to thank her for all of her work helping with this as well. This has been a very big lift. I think if any of us had known how much work it was going to be, we might have not wanted to switch, but we're very excited. So thank you for everyone for all the time that you've put into this. And I will entertain any questions if you have any.
I've got
Okay,
one.
any questions for Isaac? Yes.
So maybe I missed it because I had to step out and grab a drink and a little nourishment. But I got an email.
Yes.
Civic
So
Plus.
I did activate all of the.
I was about ready to sport as spam.
Yes.
So you're
Good.
aware.
Well, good looking out. I did activate all of the council member profiles today. So your profile should be active. You should be able to sign in using your county credentials and authenticate just like you would in some of our other county systems. So.
Okay. So I'll reverse phishing.
We love the diligence.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions for Isaac? I do have a question. As we transition to this new software, as far as other departments, have they been trained? Are they doing their own internal training? How are they learning all this?
So that's a great question. We did have a user training with the most heavy users of the system. That was recorded and is linked on the SharePoint site that we've created. I've created an item creation guide that's a PDF document that walks folks through, that's also linked on the SharePoint site. They actually have a great, help center within Civic Plus as well. And I'm available for anyone who needs assistance adding any users if we missed any, because we know, this transition timeline has been kind of long. So if you've hired any new employees that you need to have their profiles added, please let me know. And then I think Michelle Hicks is the contact for all the mayor's portfolio folks. So.
Great. Okay, well, thanks for the update on